All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to KLAF Live, the Exchange TRX online lecture. Now, we're going to start soon, so let me take this time to remind everyone on a few things to take note throughout this whole event. So, as you can see just now, it popped up on the screen. Please take note of the sign-in code on the screen and remember to note it down so that later on when we sign out, you remember this code, yeah? So there's a Q&A session with our presenters today, moderated by Architect CHOR. So do post your questions in the Q&A tab. Use the Q&A button, which is the second button from your right, and not in the general chat box. So please put your questions in all capital letters so that we're able to see them better as well. For those tuning in from Facebook, good morning, and do post your questions into the comment section so that our chat moderators will help you to convey your questions to our Zoom platform here today. We'll go through as many questions as possible, so do have the questions coming in. All right, so let us all sit back and enjoy the upcoming lecture. Good morning to everyone again. My name is Scarlett, and I will be your MC for today. First and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining us for this event. We are grateful for your presence here today. In partnership with Trx City Park, a subsidiary of the Malaysian Ministry of Finance, Lendlease is creating the Exchange Trx, a vibrant experience-led lifestyle destination that is designed with a respect for local heritage, arts, and culture. The Lifestyle Precinct offers socially immersive experiences with over 400 lifestyle, entertainment, and dining outlets, concept stores, as well as new-to-market brands, crowned by an activated 10-acre public park, Trx City Park. The Exchange TRX embodies the Lendlease purpose. Together, we create value through places where communities thrive. The case study will share how Lendlease's global placemaking design and sustainability standards have come together in the development of this world-class precinct. I would like to welcome Mr. Stuart MENDEL, Managing Director and Country Head of Lendlease Malaysia, PAM President Architect Izumi Hazani Ismail, KLAF 2020-2021 Director Architect Dr. Tan Lokman, and Co-Director Architect Lee Chowa. Let us welcome them. So to kickstart our event, I would like to welcome the Director of KLAF 2020-2021 Architect Dr. Tan Lokman to give his opening remarks. Over to you, Dr. Tan.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for taking your time to join us for this Klaf Live event. We are very fortunate today to look at another project that will be very significant for Kuala Lumpur and for Malaysia. I think we started Klaf Live earlier this year with a hybrid event in PAM where we had Carl Fender, and he was talking about Merdeka 118. While Merdeka 118 is a vertical ecosystem, the Exchange TRX is actually a horizontal as well as vertical ecosystem, and we are very fortunate to have Stuart MENDEL. Stuart is trained as an architect, so he's like one of us, and I want to thank him for accepting this invitation to share with us this morning. Well, what can I say? It's been an incredible 2 years. None of us ever thought about it, that it could ever happen, but we are today 542 days into COVID, into some form of MCO in Malaysia. That's almost coming to 2 years, and our numbers are still extremely high, more than 20,000 new cases a day for a population of slightly more than 30 million people. That's extremely high proportionally. The lucky thing or the fortunate thing is that our vaccination rate has increased tremendously, and we are all aiming for this 80% target. Regionally, our neighbors are in trouble. I have an office in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi. It's totally locked down, and you can't even go out to get food now. The army delivers the food to you. And the cases there are growing at an extremely high rate. In Cambodia, there are curfews, and as well as that, Thailand and Indonesia are also in trouble. Australia, which was a model that I always looked at, because the population is nearly the same as Malaysia, and a lot of us studied there. We know the culture well, and they seem to be. Melbourne is into its sixth lockdown. Businesses are devastated. Small SMEs and food outlets are all wiped out or struggling to survive, and their vaccination rate has not been very good. So it's a bit uncertain as to where the light at the end of the tunnel is going to be. I think it has been a trying time. We've been in third MCO since June, and it's been very trying for most of us. I'm sure for every one of us as well. Some of us have lost our loved ones. We have lost colleagues, or we have had extremely close calls. There were times of great anguish, and also troubled nights of some not being able to sleep at night, and mental health issues starting to rise. And COVID has not only affected the entire world, but it's affected individuals emotionally, financially, and all aspects of our being. In January, February, when I was giving a talk with CIDB, and I checked our company finances, and then I realized that our reserves were being decimated month by month. And I started to realize that this COVID thing was not going to go away, and we are starting to move into a period of attrition. Attrition meaning that, if you sit back, it will slowly take away every part of you. So we have been in MCO3 since June, more than 3 months now. We are in September. And I as a practitioner who runs a running practice, I felt that anything past 2 months was just too long. We've been working very hard to come back to the office with all SOPs, complying fully with the government requirements. But there are actually two directions that we can all take. We can sit back like some people, and sadly a lot of people who have just accepted that life will no longer be the same again. Or we can be a bit more positive and say that we still have hope, and we still can try our very best to come out of this bigger, better, stronger, and more climatically sensitive. And I like to be the later. That means I believe that there is hope, and there is a chance that we can create a better world. As architects, I believe most of us are architects here, and others who are planners and engineers and other consultants in the building industry. We are hope givers, we are dream makers, we are nation builders. The country cannot rebuild without us, because the cities, the buildings, the ecosystems of the future are in our minds. They are on our sketchbooks now. They are in our drawing boards. They are in our computers. We have to continue to give hope, to give new dreams, and as well as that, to give a path that will build this nation again. We must continue to dream, to have hope, to design, to build, to draw, and to create better cities of what, and perhaps learn a lot of what COVID has taught us this past almost 2 years. As a festival, Klaf has suffered, because as a festival, it's about coming together as a group of people. And but we have gone Klaf live, and we have endeavored to show and to get speakers in who are planning the future of Kuala Lumpur and affecting it. And we were very privileged to have 3 sessions already. We had Merdeka 118, which will be a significant landmark for Kuala Lumpur. Then we had the house competition winners who were doing a new house typology for Malaysia. And after that, we had bamboo architecture, which to me is really what the tropics is about, a sustainable material. Today, we are very privileged to have STUART, MENDEL, to share with us one of the biggest interventions in our city. Lendlease, and together the Ministry of Finance, they own and are developing 17 acres. So I would dare say that other than KLCC and KL Central, this would be the new largest single development that can take us out of COVID. And I like to be positive about it. And I believe that this project will be COVID-proofed, it will be future-proofed. And I would like to really hear from STUART as to some of the things that are being put into it to to attend to those issues. During the MCO, when we got our letters, our PPN letters, and to start back to go to work, I went to KL a couple of times, and I started to see that roads were changing. There were new underpasses, and there were little interventions that were coming out in this whole district. And in 2 years, coming to 2 years now, a lot has changed, and TRX has been a significant part of that. If you drive around the area, you can start to see linkages starting to form. You can see landscaping starting to come in. And I was so puzzled, as to how they all link together, because 17 acres in the city center is quite hard to comprehend mentally as you see pockets of development happening along the streets. But I believe that it is something significant for KL, and we look forward to hearing on that. Thank you very much to Architect Lee Chowa, my co-director and excellent moderator, and he will continue to take us through, and as well as that, he will take questions. And Dr. Izumi, our long-lasting PAM president, and thank you very much for serving and offering to serve. And we look forward to also November, where we will come back. We'll make a decision pretty soon, but at the moment, it's all systems go. We are going to come back with architects and datum in the first week of November. And we look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you very much. I will pass it back to Scarlett.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. Next, I would like to invite our host for today, PAM President Dr. Architect Izumi Hazani Ismail, to give his welcome address. Over to you, Dr. Izumi.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and good morning, everybody. I'd like to address Architect Dr. Tan Lokman as the Director of Klaf 2021, and my friend Architect Lee Chowa as the Moderator for Klaf Live event today, Klaf 2021 committee and team members, Klaf partners and sponsors, members of the Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia and friends. Welcome to this fourth series of the Klaf Kuala Lumpur Architecture Festival lectures. Klaf is one of the major annual programs for Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia since 2017. We had expanded and enlarged the program with a view to bring architecture out to the public domain, not just keeping within our own professional circles. Klaf is in line with the mission of PAM, which is to promote the advancement of architecture and the architectural profession for the betterment of society. We encourage members of the public to participate and partner with us towards contributing to the sustainable growth of our nation. Earlier, in April this year, the Klaf team brought to us the insight of Merdeka 118 Construction Wonders, presented by car vendor and Architect Hood Abu Bakar. Today, we will listen to the inside story of another mega project, the Exchange Trx, to be shared by our distinguished speaker, Stuart MENDEL, the Managing Director and Country Head of Lendlease Malaysia. Lendlease has a long history, decades of experience in property development across the globe, from Australia to Asia, US, and Europe. With their focus in creating innovative and sustainable properties, we are pleased to have Stuart to share with us Lendlease's strategies and approach in enriching communities in Malaysia, how Lendlease implements it to reach in providing vibrant and resilient communities in KL City. As we are all aware that the Exchange 106 is the new tallest building in our country, which is the signature of TRX development. If you look at the KL city map, you will be amazed that the three tallest structures in Malaysia have now become the new boundary stones for the KL Golden Triangle. Those are KLCC, TRX, the Exchange 106, and Merdeka 118. This new KL Golden Triangle is a standard version of Bukit Bintang Jalan Sultan Ismail Golden Triangle. These three mega projects are competing yet complementing in making KL a great city of wealth and opportunities for businesses and professionals. Looking closer at those mega projects, It would be interesting to see how investors and developers engage all range of KL City residents from bottom to top, bringing them together to live in a modern KL metro living. I noticed that the Exchange Trx offers more than 400 lifestyle concept stores, entertainment, and dining outlet in this development. I got this information from the Klaf brochure. I hope STUART can share with us the challenges and excitements in getting the 400 retail spaces to be filled out, as we are aware that many malls and retail spaces are facing challenges in getting tenants for their retail spaces. Like what Dr. Tan Lokman mentioned just now, this pandemic really affects many of us. My office is working on one of the office tower in TRX, a commercial bank HQ, and we have to halt the project for a while due to MCO 3.0. It really disrupts the construction process and the development process. So I have questions for Stuart. Will this COVID-19 pandemic affect the direction and planning of Lendlease future commercial and retail development? Or is there any plan for these spaces to be built with flexibility and possibility to be converted for different uses in the near future? My apology, I couldn't hold for throwing this question to Stuart. I don't want to wait until the Q&A session. As Lendlease is well known for their expertise in retail and commercial development planning. So I hope Stuart can share some insight on this after this. On behalf of PAM, I would like to thank our festival partners and sponsors for their continued support in Klaf. Those are GBI, Sika, BlueScope, Roca, DML Products, Prima, and Nippon. We truly appreciate your support and contributions. Even under the current pandemic situation, you continue to be with us to make better architecture for the people. To all participants, please enjoy the Klaf Live today. Thank you very much. Back to you, Scarlett.
Thank you, Dr. Izumi. That's a really good question, and I look forward to hearing Stuart's answer to that. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to invite the co-director of KLF 2020-2021 and our moderator, Architect Lee Chowa, to give an introduction of this morning. Over to you, Architect Lee.
Thank you, Scarlett. Good morning, everyone. So we have already got the first question from our President Architect, Dr. Izumi. Yeah. Welcome to another Klaf Live event featuring the Exchange Trx. In many ways, KLites have been affected by the two mega projects in town, namely the Merdeka 118 and TRX. While changes and developments are the necessary inconveniences of any cities, more so the developing ones, I'm sure many KLites and visitors can't wait to see the completion of these two major projects so that, one, the traffic could be somewhat eased up, and two, so that we could all visit and experience many of the wonderful public spaces, plazas, parks, gardens, buildings, shops, and restaurants on offer. In April this year, we had the honor of Carl Fender and Hood Abu Bakar to update us on the work progress of Merdeka 118. And today, we have the honor of another Australian architect, Stuart MENDEL of Lendlease, Malaysia, to update us on the Exchange Trx, a development in partnership with Trx City Park. Mr. Stuart MENDEL is the Managing Director and Head of Country, Lendlease Malaysia, since July 2018. In this role, he is responsible for the overall country leadership and management, including strategy, growth, operations, safety, sustainability, and human capital. Prior to this, Stuart was the project director for Tun Razak Exchange Lifestyle Quarter, a joint venture between Lendlease and Trx City Sdn Bhd. In this role, he was in charge of the strategy, implementation, and resources for the project. With more than 27 years experience in the property industry, 24 of which has been with Lendlease in a multitude of roles spanning across a wide spectrum of businesses, including project management and construction, development, and the military housing privatization business. In January 2014, Stuart joined Lendlease's Asia business as the Managing Director for Project Management and Construction Asia. Before that, Stuart was the General Manager of the Retail Strategic Business Unit of Lendlease in Australia. Stuart holds a Bachelor of Architecture degree from the University of Sydney, Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Stuart MENDEL. Over to you, Mr. Stuart MENDEL.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. And thank you very much for inviting me here today to be part of the journey and part of the discovery today. I've already been posed with a number of questions, which is somewhat daunting. What I thought I might do is present what I'd prepared and then make sure that I address all of the questions to the extent that they're not covered in the presentation that I've got already arranged, to make sure that I cover that following. And I think some quite provocative remarks made by a number of the panelists already. So I think firstly, I would really like to clarify that whilst technically I'm an architect from qualification background in the early parts of my career, I do not take any claim to being a very good architect and to have actually practiced architecture for the majority of my career. So none of the architectural design that you see before you today is anything that I can take any credit or responsibility for. My role has very much been over what has now been 7 years in Malaysia. My role has been to progress this fantastic development and get it to almost the point of fruition, so that we, as Li Chua mentioned, so that we can finish the public realm, the public areas, open it up to the community, and perhaps conclude some of the key areas of road and infrastructure improvement, because sometimes we have to go backwards a little bit to progress forward. And I think, yeah, it is a provocative time for us, and a questioning time for us when we're doing major developments like this, because we do have a huge responsibility to the community and the cities that we're building these developments in. And there's no question when we're doing things like this, we are shaping parts of the city, and we are, ideally providing great places for people to experience and to enrich people's lives. But when we go through, the pandemic that we're currently 530 days, I think Dr. Tan said. I haven't been counting on a daily basis, although I certainly have been monitoring cases on a daily basis. When we go through these massive times of change and massive times of reflection, they do, and rightly should, cause us to stop and reflect and make sure that what we're doing is going to be able to improve and build on and respond positively to these major shifts in the way we have to operate at the moment, the way we live and where we're going. I certainly am of the camp, the positive camp. I do believe that we can come out of COVID stronger and better over time, but we need to learn from the experiences to be able to do that. And I can confidently say now that we're fully back into delivery. We were impacted quite heavily on a number of times with these with the lockdowns, but I can positively say that we're now back to pretty much the same level of workforce as we had at the end of May this year before we went into the most recent lockdown. And one of the things that's enabled us to do that is that we've been able to do things like secure vaccinations for all of the construction workforce involved in the project. and are now almost 90% or over 90% fully vaccinated with our workforce, and we'll get to that 100%, within the next month or so. I think it's some positives out of COVID and the like, and I think it is important to look for some of these positives and indicators and leads, is that it has very definitely put sustainability on the map. And I think for me, for a couple of reasons, one, there's obviously the thought that, some of these sorts of things are being driven by the massive rate of change in the world and population, and driven by a whole range of different things, including climate change and population growth. But I think the really positive one for me was when sort of the world paused last year, we really did see that the environment recovered, maybe not at full depth, but the environment changed dramatically for that 2 or 3 months when the whole world, in the early onset of COVID, when the world sort of paused. The airs got clearer, the waterways got clearer. People saw that some different animals and things that were coming in that hadn't previously been experienced, and I think a lot of that gave us gave me some view for hope as well. So that's some sort of responses, if you like, to some of the thinking that's been going on as a result of COVID for people like Lendlease and for projects like the Exchange Trx that we really need to learn from and continue to develop, and can be the new places for us. So with that, and a great appreciation to being invited here today, and hope that I can live up to the expectations that have been set by the previews, both from myself personally, but from a project perspective, most importantly. We're certainly pretty excited about seeing it getting close to coming to fruition, and very, very keen for it to become part of the city fabric and a new great place for people in Kuala Lumpur and Malaysia, and hopefully when borders open back up again, truly an international quality destination for people to come and visit, and to put KL, continue KL's evolution of being on the global stage. Probably most obviously done with Petronas Towers, and then continued to build that, but really, some major markers of international success. So with that, what I was going to do today was talk a little bit about Lendlease, then give you some perspective of the overall TRX master plan, which is a 70-acre parcel, and then which is totally managed by Trx City, effectively the Ministry of Finance, and then drill down to the Exchange Trx, which is the piece that Lendlease has been leading in partnership with Trx City. And as part of that, I will ensure that I cover what we think of as resilience. How have we built resilience into the master plan and the development? And that resilience is partly around sustainability, but also partly around, for things like COVID, how has that impacted, and how do we ensure that the products that we're delivering and the places that we're delivering are COVID or other pandemics and the like, are resilient to those sorts of events. So how do we react to that? And a lot of that I think we'd already sort of built in, but clearly there's some specific things that we've learned in the last year and a half with COVID that have further refined some of that thinking. So that's how I was going to structure today's talk. So with that, I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of Lendlease. If we can move to the next slide. Thanks. So Lendlease is an Australian based company, or Australian headquarters company, but is an international group. And We have a presence in obviously Australia, but also Asia. And in Asia, it's predominantly Singapore, Malaysia, China, and Japan. In Europe, which is quite heavily towards the UK and Italy, and then the US. So 4 different regions. We focus very much on sort of city shaping development, so large, predominantly mixed use, where we can really impact in a positive sense the whole community. The image on the slide here is the Barangaroo Precinct in Sydney, Australia, which was previously a shipping port right on the edge of the CBD, and has over the last 10 to 15 years been transformed into a major mixed-use precinct, and has really shifted the geography of the city of Sydney, the geographic or demographic centre of the CBD of Sydney. In total, the pipeline of development projects that we've secured around the world is 114 billion Aussie dollars, so sort of 500 billion ringgit in value of projects that are in various stages of delivery, and the Exchange Trx being one of those. And we look to make sure that we can sort of leverage our scale and leverage the projects that we get involved in with a range of international property players, international investors, and an international mix of tenants and users. If we can just flick to the next slide. And really what we define our purpose as sort of creating value through places where communities thrive. And that value is not just value to Lendlease. We obviously have to create value to Lendlease's shareholders, but value to all of the stakeholders that are involved in these large projects. And ultimately, we're trying to create communities that enhance the cities that we're developing these projects in. And if we go to the next slide, so the strategy is very much around placemaking. Buildings are very important, but at the end of the day, it's how you put the buildings together, the places you create between the buildings that are the things that differentiate, communities and precincts, and are the things that give back to the broader community beyond just simply the building. And we try to ensure that we're focused on both the social, the environmental, and the economic. So that, triple bottom line, it's not new, but it is something that is fundamental to what we do. And just as a couple of examples from around the world, in Chicago, a major integrated project on the Chicago waterfront. We've been involved with Elephant Park in London over probably would be about the last 10 years now. So that's been a major city shaping, urban regeneration of an area that really had been quite repressed for quite a long time. I mentioned Barangaroo in Sydney, and closer to home on the bottom right-hand corner, our Paya Lebar Quarter project in Singapore, which is probably the most recent completion of the project as well. And that's also mixed use in its nature. From a sustainability perspective, and I know that is something that's close to the hearts of Pam and the Green Building Council here, very, very important. And it's something that's extremely important to Lendlease. So on the next slide, just highlighting Lendlease's commitment to sustainability and to carbon reduction. So we have now committed that we are aligned to limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. And in terms of our commitments, looking to a net zero carbon by 2025 and an absolute zero carbon by 2040. And we are already putting in plans in place around things that we're doing to reduce our carbon footprint for the 2025 target. And clearly 2040 is going to come upon us quite quickly, and that's a pretty aggressive timeline and strategy to be absolute zero, because at the moment, the world, and you will all be part of the solutions, we don't have all the solutions at the moment that will get our property sector and Lendlease's projects specifically to absolute zero. So we've got to develop the strategies, develop the technologies, develop the materials and the construction techniques, etc., as an industry over the next 20 years to achieve Lendlease's target, but a lot of other organisations and cities and countries are signing up to similar sorts of timelines. And this is one thing that I do think has been a positive out of COVID in the last 12 months, is that we've become far more focused on it and far more committed to it, and that there is a real shift in how organisations and governments are approaching it. So that is a good thing to come out of the COVID. And then on the next slide, probably just a little bit more sustainability in terms of what we're always looking to try and achieve. So it is about committing to the industry benchmarks. It is about low carbon strategies. We've done a range of different things through our business, both in Malaysia, on TRX, on SETIA, which is another project that we're associated with here, and in our business more broadly. So then, as that is a backdrop for Lendlease, to turn our attentions to TRX. So the overall precinct that I talked about, if we can just flick to the next slide, please. Terrific, thanks. So the overall precinct here in the middle of KL is actually a 70-acre development, which is the TRX development, which has a focus around being an international financial district. So a lot of the commercial office space a lot of the space is being developed as office, and a lot of that office is focused towards financial users, space users, and the other users that sit off the key elements of financial spaces, so banks and the like. And the aim is for it to be still very much mixed use, highly connected from a technology perspective, but also highly connected from a public transport and from a road and infrastructure perspective. And it overall contains a mix of commercial, retail, the hospitality, so there's space for several hotels, there's a leisure component, there's a cultural component, and the retail in the centrepiece, and very much meant to be somewhere where you can experience all of those different offerings in a really convenient location. So in terms of sort of makeup of that space, as I said, 70 acres, about 24 million square feet, so pretty significant, and overall estimated GDV, or the gross development value, of about 40 billion. And almost a quarter of the area is public open space and park. The Exchange, which is the retail piece that you will drill into, that's sort of just over 10% of the overall development. There's 3,800 residential apartments, and the office space is particularly designed to be large floor spaces that are designed sort of very much as premium, A-grade and premium, and for sort of future office. So moving a lot more towards larger open plan floor places, a lot more capability for future technologies and adaptability. And about half the area is in office space. So that image, I kind of like keeping the older style image. So that is probably 2.5 years ago now. You can see, so the pale blue area is the total 70 acres. I'll drill into where the Exchange TRX, the Lendlease and Trx City joint venture is quite shortly, but it's effectively more the right-hand side towards towards the city, towards Petronas. You can see Tun Razak runs along the bottom of the page. Roselangor Golf Course is right on the bottom corner, bottom right-hand corner there. You can see, and a very important component of the site, on the right-hand edge of the blue and just to the right of Exchange 106 Tower, you can see two sort of slightly, I guess, trapezoidal shapes. That's the MRT station, which line 1 has been operational there now since I think it was 2017. The MRT opened through KL, and line 2 is scheduled for 22-23. And this station box is where they intersect. So it's the only station, on the current line 1, line 2 network where the two lines intersect. And that's a really important element of the reason for the location of this development where it is, and how we've arranged the retail and our residential and office very close to that MRT station. So no more work has to be done in the station box to accept line 2. That was already thought through and planned and built when they built it for the first line. So it just gives you a sense of its location and how close it is to the edge of the CBD. And the next couple of diagrams show that link. So this one is about public transport, and it shows how the MRT line 1 and MRT line 2 connect, and they intersect on the TRX train station, and that's right on the main edge of the development. And then, whilst I'm a huge optimist towards and the importance of public transport, and it's been fantastic to see the take up of the MRT grow since it did come online. And I have no doubt that when MRT line 2 opens, it will be readily accepted by the community. I still am a pragmatist and know that I think KL people will be very focused on their cars for quite a time to come as well. So road connectivity is critically important as well. So the next slide shows the road connectivity with immediate connection to both Tun Razak, Jalan Tun Razak, the MEX Highway, the SMART, a number of the other major network connections, road network connections in the city. So when Dr. Tan was talking about seeing a number of these, tunnels and things appearing into the road network through the city, that is to connect in with the underground road system and car parking system for this development. The vast majority of the road network, and certainly the primary road network, is underground in tunnels that do a single loop through the edge of the development and connect to the majority of the underground car parking of each ones of the buildings. And one of the major reasons for that, the rationales for that, is to ensure that the ground plane is able to be pedestrian friendly, pedestrian prioritised, so that it is very peripheral car use at the ground plane and far more predominant for the public. So that gives you a bit of an overview of the overall development. I now want to just step into the Exchange TRX more particularly. So if we could go to the next slide, and the idea with the Exchange is that it's meant to be the social heart of Kuala Lumpur. So it's the next slide, if we can. Thanks. So it is literally the centre of the Exchange TRX, and it is the centre of TRX, the master development, but it is also going to be a significant social and entertainment and lifestyle area for KL more broadly as well. So I think I probably explained the joint venture arrangement. So it's a joint venture between Lendlease and TRX. Lendlease submitted a proposal back in 2013 as part of a competitive tender to be considered as the developer of this 17-acre parcel in the middle of TRX, and were successful and so preferred in 2014 and contracted in 2015. So whilst the ownership is a joint venture, TRX are the master developer, so the area outside the 17 acres, and Lendlease provides the majority of the property-related services to that joint venture. So we're a service provider as well as the joint venture partner. And the services that we provide, development management, design and construction, property management, retail leasing and residential sales. So pretty much the full gamut of services are provided to the joint venture to develop it. So I'm just going to pause for a second and let play a video so you can see what we think the offer will be like.
Nobody knows what tomorrow will bring, but we can make it amazing. Food and friends will be more enjoyable. Fashion more elevated. Our culture will matter, as will the arts. Experiences will be twice as rewarding. While work turns into a breeze, our home will be our source of pride. While our holidays, the first of its kind, and nature will love it more than ever. Nobody knows what tomorrow will bring. That's why we built it. Welcome to the Exchange Trx, the new social heart of Kuala Lumpur.
So I think she's far more eloquent than I am. What I would like to do now is go to the plan, which is on the next slide, and give you some orientation, because recognising that a lot of you today are architects and designers, and I think that a plan will help immensely to be able to allow you to understand how it all sort of is arranged. So on this diagram, the right-hand side is Jalan Tun Razak running up and down the page. And the left-hand side, the very corner of it, just to the very left-hand triangle, that actually is currently that's the sales gallery, if anybody's familiar with the sales gallery that's been there for TRX, just towards Jalan Imbi, and the Merdeka tree is planted right on that corner, and that large tree that you can see there is the Merdeka tree that is intended very much to stay and be a key feature of that public plaza area. Everything that's coloured on this diagram is part of the Exchange TRX, so that's the joint venture piece. All of the other grade buildings and highlighted is part of the broader master plan, and this is about 50 acres in total. And then off the page, just down below where it says office, off that page there is another 20 acres, which is sort of the last stage of the development. So as I said, Lendlease is involved in everything that's coloured there. You can see that there's, in the grey, you can see the Affin Bank building. That's going to be their headquarters. That's only months away from completion. The HSBC Bank, that is effectively completed. I think that just, obviously the most recent shutdown has impacted everybody's timing about when people are moving in and things, but that's almost ready to be occupied. The CHOR note there, that is a residential development that's under construction. And then Prudential, just a bit further up the page there, Prudential is fully occupied. That was the first office building, so fully completed and virtually fully occupied. And that is Prudential's home in Kuala Lumpur. And that was the very first office building that was completed here. A lot of the public realm is nearing completion. Some of, particularly as I was talking about the Merdeka tree area, a range of that public realm is now complete. And you can see the way the centre is, the overall master plan is designed where there's a large public area on the left hand, there's a large public area associated with the MRT over on the right hand side, and then where the number one and that where the arrow's going around there, that is the retail, and that retail, and I've got some more detailed slides coming up, but that retail sits, it's 4 levels, and it sits underneath what you can see here, which is the city park over the top. So there's a 10-acre city park sitting on top of 4 levels of the Exchange Trx retail and lifestyle centre. Then there's the green plots, plot 1A, 1B and 1C, which are residential towers. And the first 2 residential towers, which is the right-hand side, the plot 1C, they are well into construction now, well into sales now. And you can see that they almost have a front door onto the MRT Plaza and to the connection there. And then the number 4, the pink number 4, is a boutique office that we're creating, which is part of the Exchange. Now, it's quite modest in scale. It's only 200 NLA, 200,000 square feet of NLA. So it's quite modest in scale. It's designed specifically to be for different smaller use tenants than the rest of the office buildings, which are much more traditional, large-scale, high-rise office buildings. So this is designed much more for a boutique set of tenants. It fronts directly out onto the city park, and at the lower level fronts out onto the MRT Plaza. So a high degree of public transport connectivity, but a high degree of connectivity immediately into public space and quality space. And then the number 3 there is the hotel, and that is going to be a Kimpton hotel, and I'll show you more about that. And those are both under construction now as well. And then finally, there's the plot 2, which is right on the Northwest Plaza there, right on where the Medica tree is, and that will be a mixed-use development, and that's just going to be a little bit later in the timeline of development. But you can see that there is a lot of public area in that space. So now I'll just run through each one of the asset classes with a few slides. So this is the residential, which we're calling Trx Residences. It's focused very much around the lifestyle piece, that you're living life at the centre. You're right in the centre of this community. You're right in the centre of TRX. You're right in the centre of KL. But there's a lot of amenity on your doorstep. And that's one of the key things that we're looking at, and that makes this residential a point of difference. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of imagery of some of our community spaces. There's community spaces at effectively what is the park level. So the top of the car parking is park level. So we have community spaces that run straight across onto that 10-acre park. So not only do you have your residential private community spaces, but you just cross an 8-metre walkway and you're into the park that sits on the roof of the retail. So highly connected in a lot of different places to be able to recreate, if you like. So on to the next slide. So now I will talk about what we call the Exchange TRX, which is that social heart. It is experiential-led lifestyle. It's a combination of public spaces and places to dwell, as well as your traditional retail. So one of the questions that was asked at the beginning is, how is it going, and what are you doing to be able to attract major retail tenants in an environment that there is obviously, the pandemic has made a short-term impact on the fact that retail has suffered as one of the most challenging industries, but broadly in KL, there is certainly a tendency to be leaning more towards the oversupply. So how do we deal with that? And I think really, for us, the key focus has been it has to be something different, and it has to be a major attractor for not only the local community, but the broader community, both broader Malaysian and international. And it has to have a really, really deep level of offering that's beyond just retail. So it's not a shopping mall. It's a total experience. And our retail leasing has been going extremely well, and that therefore is that third-party validation that if you create something that's truly special, there is still a high demand for it from tenants, but the tenants are only coming because they believe it'll be a high demand from a customer perspective. So this just sort of covers it. We've signed up all of the key anchor tenants. It's about 2 million square feet gross. It's about 1.3 million net lettable area. We're still very much focused on finishing the construction in next year, 2022. Probably have close to about 400 retail shops. Just as a general, as a cross-section here, and it's a diagrammatic cross-section, but just to get a sense of how we've structured this, that all of the car parking and all the loading is below ground. The retail is 3 levels above ground and 1 level below ground. We have deliberately kept the retail quite low, so a low number of levels, and we've done that for a range of reasons. One is to make sure that the public realm, the roof areas and things are close to the ground plane, but secondly, that you get a lot more activation in your retail over the lower levels. So the taller you go up in the retail, the harder it is to attract the customers to the upper levels. The unique thing here is that there'll be customers coming down into the retail from the park. They'll be coming into the sides from all of the office buildings that surround and the residential that surround. They can get into from the sides, and you can come up from your parking. You also come into the side of it from the MRT. So unlike a lot of retail, this will be activated on all sides and areas of it. And then the cinemas, the hotel, the office, and a lot of the food and beverage look out into the park and into the public areas. So really make the most of those public areas. Just to the next slide, and this just sort of gives you a little bit of a sense of the sorts of uses we have on each one of the levels. I won't go into that in the interest of time. I'll give you a bit of a sense on the next slide of some of the key areas of attraction, if you like, so that you will be able to see, yes, there's major flagship retail stores. So there'll be a number of new to market brands. There'll be a number of quite innovative retailing styles and a lot of major retailers, obviously. The park is a significant differentiator and a significant attractor for the broader community and an amenity for the broader community. We have an area called Market Lane, which is an outdoor sort of street, if you like, on the edge of the retail, activated by residential on one side and retail on the other, which is going to be focused around opening that up to younger designers, homegrown brands, local food and artisans and the like. So very much getting back to some real sort of cultural roots. There's a range of different places where we can have events, so that there'll be a lot of different events that will run through this development. And food is going to be it's a massive part. Globally, we're seeing a shift more and more to food and beverage, but Asia and KL and Malaysia, food is just such a massive part of our entertainment, what we do. So we're really looking to elevate that whole food experience. I'll just go through some images that we'll just sort of scroll through these. This is the Central Exchange, major area that feeds into the cinema area. And if you go on to the next slide, it's another view of the same space. The space after that is our dining terrace. So this is an indoor-outdoor space fully focused around food and beverage, or feeding into, so some indoor dining spilling out into this semi-controlled space. And then this space links up into the park. So you'll actually be able to walk directly from the city up into this space, and then do food and beverage here, and then up one more level and straight into the park as well. So that gives you a bit of a sense of the retail and lifestyle area. To give you a bit of a sense of the hotel and office. So this is actually an image from basically Tun Razak. Jalan Tun Razak is behind you, looking into the office space. So office on the right and hotel on the left, and the entrance into the Exchange retail directly in front of you, across this transport interconnection and public space, with the station boxes on both sides of the image here. So you can see how connected from MRT into the place it is. And then just drilling in on the next slide to our hotel. So Kimpton is the brand that will be coming to this hotel. Kimpton are reasonably new to Asia, quite big in the US. They're part of the Intercontinental Hotel Group, IHG, and they really focus around bespoke designs and service specific for their location, and very much about personal service as well. So 470 odd room hotel, entrance directly off the park. And then the office on the next slide gives you a bit of a sense of what our office is about. And once again, that's focused very much around large open plan workplaces. A lot of work going into ensuring that the views from this either come out onto the MRT Plaza or are out onto the park. So really good visual connections to the park, and designing it very much around health and well-being in mind as well. So you get another image of that office building. So this is the image from the park. So this is, you can see two faces of the hotel office look directly out onto the park. And the next shot just gives you a bit of a cross-sectional understanding of how this is arranged. So as I'd mentioned before, all the parking and things is down below. You've got your 4 levels of retail. Hotel and office spring off the park level, and the office all looks directly out onto the park level, which is at RL60. The MRT Plaza is off to your right in this section. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of the planning, a lot of work going into reduced number of columns and the like, so that you can get that flexible column for each space. It's capable of being subdivided, capable of being single floor plates, and there are over 20,000 square feet of net lettable in that main open space. High floor to ceilings, really ensuring that they cater to where we see office, particularly international office design and expectations going. Just to move from the office into the city park and give you some, and I think I'll probably just, rather than keep talking through the detail, might just give you some imagery of the park. So there's 3 or 4 or 5 shots of the park for you to get a bit of a sense. The idea with the park is it's something for everybody. So there's places to dwell and take solace, but there's also places that are quite busy. There's a kids' play area, quite interactive, both water and physical. There's formal areas, there's food and beverage areas, there's entertainment areas. So if you'd just like to maybe just go through the photos. So this is the main entertainment amphitheatre style part of the park. The next. So this gives you, excuse me, gives you a bit of a sense of some of the design features of it. Go on to the next. There we go. So this is the kids area that there's food and beverage close by, so families can sort of participate in food and beverage at the same time as the kids run amok in either the interactive water play or the physical, climbing through the houses and things. This is a night shot. There's a main thoroughfare that runs from one end of the park to the other, so you just get a bit of a sense, and the food and beverage is directly up ahead in this particular image. So that's me talking about the park. What I might do is just quickly, we'll show one video of what we think the park might be to KL.
At the heart of Tun Razak Exchange, Malaysia's new central business district and the country's first dedicated international financial district, is the Trx City Park. Designed by Lendlease in partnership with Oculus and Pentago, our landscape architects, and owned by the Kuala Lumpur City Hall, Kuala Lumpur's new 10-acre public park will sit on top of the Exchange Trx, a new experience-led lifestyle destination, a joint venture between master developer Trx City and Lendlease.
We have the chance to create something for the whole of Kuala Lumpur to enjoy for generations to come. This will be the first park of its kind in over 2 decades, designed for the people of Kuala Lumpur.
We're helping to build a new green heart in the centre of this city for a better tomorrow, integrating the best of city living with a rich abundance of native flora and fauna that will bring out KL's unique character.
At Lendlease, our vision is to create the best places that inspires and enriches the lives of people all around the world.
Our approach is about nurturing the distinctive sense of place that each location has at its core. On our Elephant Park development, we focused on the vibrancy of a central London neighbourhood that embraced a sustainable future. Whereas for Barangaroo, it was about weaving the area's rich history into its current role as a dynamic district for business, arts and culture.
The Trx Park is going to be KL's next icon.
It truly is something we can be proud of.
Hopefully that gives you a bit of a sense of the park and the development more broadly. What I would just like to do now, just to finish up, is just to revisit the buildings and some of our initiatives, but very much just from the resilience side. So sustainability initiatives and from things, what have we done specifically regarding COVID and how do we see some of that changing? So there's a whole bunch of statistics there, but certainly the addition of the park helps in a whole bunch of ways, because it helps with heat loading of the retail, as an example. We've also done major things. Recycling is significant. We're able to recycle over 90% of our construction waste. We've ensured high level of LEED and Gbi ratings, and that by default dramatically improves the performance of the buildings. There is a recycled water plant for the whole master plan, which TRX runs its air conditioning and all its landscape watering needs off that recycled water and toilet flushing. So that dramatically reduces the water reduction and the need for potable water use. And a range of other initiatives there. If I go to the next slide, one of the things that we're doing is that we've increased the amount of contact, the need for contact, and that is certainly as a direct impact or reflection on COVID. So moving to auto door centres, not necessarily revolutionary, but shifting to ensure ticketless car parking. The hotel key system will be contactless. All of the lift systems will be destinational control, so you don't have to need to sorry, that's in the office building, I should say. So you don't need to press all of the buttons. And all the other things like taps and other sensors will all be touchless. From a precinct management perspective, I think it's really important to be able to use the leverage of both from a cleanliness perspective, but also the uses of CCTV cameras to help manage gatherings and the like. So if CCTV footage and cameras weren't important before the pandemic, I think the pandemic has increased the need and the use of them to be able to help to be able to control and manage gatherings and congregations and the like. And then the ability to capture all of this data and be able to access it so that we're able to control things more remotely. If we look at retail specifically, we've done a number of things around air quality. We've done a number of things around the provision of a sick bay, but a dedicated sick bay, separating the air filtration systems, and then ensuring that the quality filtration systems through the air conditioning in the Exchange is increased to get the very high standards. And the air changes for toilets and things like that. So all of these air improvements are things that will make a big impact on people's health. Probably similar sorts of initiatives here. I think multiple points of entry is a significant benefit, so that you're not trying to funnel people and have lots of people all needing to converge. So just some of those basic design principles. And then the other key thing is a state-of-the-art retail app, which will enable shoppers and other customers to be able to interface with the centre and do things remotely when the need arises. If we go to the residential, there's some of the innate sort of robustness that's built into the residential. There's pocket gardens. I think if we look at being isolated in our homes, being able to have some areas where you can get out and you can go and get some fresh air and you can see nature, critically important, even for people living, or even more so for people living in apartments. The mechanical ventilation quality and the fact that you can open your windows in the residential is also particularly important. When we think about COVID, it's not just, or these sorts of pandemics, it's not just about the fact that the physical improvements. You think about our mental health and the challenges for people that have been isolated, extremely isolated. The ability to connect with the precinct conveniences, using technology and having all of this on your doorstep so that you can still get access to the maximum number of services is a major improvement and step and area that enables these to be sort of, if you like, that resilience, that sort of pandemic proof, giving people more quality of life while still having to follow the SOPs and be isolated. And I think that needs to be, can't be underestimated, the importance of these public areas. And when you see people in the evenings, when you're allowed to get out and you're allowed to walk and do those sorts of things, we've got people that drive to our neighbourhoods so they can walk our streets because our streets have more trees than the next neighbourhood. We're just lucky in that respect. Well, people here will be able to go and walk in the park and things for your time to get that fresh air and that wellness. I think the other really important thing as we all work from home is having spaces in the residential that are designed to be able to work from home. So dedicated study areas, very high quality internet connection and the like. They're crucially important. Really good community facilities so that you can leverage those, and more people will tip more towards working from home in parts. So that's all really important. And I think, just having the ability to play and, as I said, interact with the park and the like. So I think just sort of finishing up in some of those initiatives, better technology, the use of the apps enables contact tracing and the like. It enables us to control monitoring and limit that. It enables dedicated areas to do the the deliveries. Certainly another successful business in COVID times being Grab. All that delivery things, that's only going to become more and more in the future. So being able to deal with all of that in an effective and efficient way, and be able to control things with minimal touch and the like. So that's how we've sort of started to move a lot of our products, both in the detail and the technology, but also conceptually in creating communities that give people space when things like pandemics strike. So with that, that's the end of the presentation. I probably talked fractionally longer than I was scheduled to as well. And I think I touched on a number of the questions, but with that, I might pause and go back to CHOR and see if there's questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stuart. That was very good, very comprehensive, and now we can have a better understanding of what's happening on the site. It was very enlightening. So we have a few questions. Can you see the question, or do I read the questions to you?
I can't. Let me see. Q&A. Hang on a second. Right, now I can.
Okay, good. Question 1. How is the planning and design intend to complement the existing surrounding community? For example, high level of flyovers, condominium opposite TRX developments, the track development which was partially blocked by the flyovers.
So I think obviously a very good question. I think a lot of the area and development around TRX or the natural areas are likely to be further developed. So most of the perimeter of TRX is largely undeveloped, I guess, if you like, or developing. Quite old building stock, likely to be redeveloped in the medium term. So what we've tried to do is design. So this is not an internal looking scheme. So whilst the park and things are centralised, the buildings around the perimeter face out and address and recognise the existing streets and the existing neighbourhoods. Where I talked about the Merdeka tree and that northwest plaza of their diagram, that connects directly up to Bukit Bintang, and there is, in partnership with DBKL, the plan is to upgrade that whole street connection and link from a pedestrian, far more pedestrianised. It will have cars as well, I'm imagining, but improve the pedestrian connectivity from the development up into that corner. There's a number of other developments that are happening around, and the street systems broadly recognise and address those. I think you mentioned Trek specifically. That is on the other side of a 6-lane highway, so it's probably the highway is the thing that is going to segregate that more than the flyover specifically. But there are some areas where connectivity, immediate connectivity, has not been possible. But the vast majority of it, we have connected the street networks of the centre out into the neighbouring street networks. And as I said, increasing the pedestrian connectivity directly into the community. And it is all publicly accessible. This is not a gated development. This is part of the city.
So the whole development is accessible by the public 24/7?
Yes.
Oh, that's very good. Okay. Okay, the next question is about culture. On the whole, this from Gbi from Sarawak, Kuching. On the whole, a very nice development, as are all other high-end, high-profile retail commercial developments. However, the Malaysian culture component is not very visible. This could be quite subjective, yeah? Are there any attempts to engage local artists and cultural producers to contribute to the project? Involvement by local artisans or artists?
So the answer is absolutely. I agree. I don't think this presentation, and I already was conscious that I probably talked and presented more slides than people want to listen to on a Saturday morning. But I agree the presentation didn't necessarily draw that out today. But the relationship to the Malaysian culture and even, for example, if I take the park, nearly all of the planting is species that are quite local and relevant to the Malaysian landscape setting. A lot of the areas that we're introducing there, the art, even the water features that we've got pay homage to the Malaysian culture and designs.
I see.
As I said, that Market Lane area is very much, as a occupant and user, is very much pitched at local artisans, crafts, local food and beverage, people that wouldn't necessarily be able to, or traditionally be able to be in the middle of a quite a if you like, an upmarket retail offering. But we've deliberately made areas that work really well for these sorts of people that are at a different sort of price point and things, to ensure that we can get that richness of users and experience, and a lot of that is very much Malaysian. And we've used a number of Malaysian designers, both at a detailed level, some like right the way down to designing uniforms for the staff, is very much around making sure that it relates to the Malaysian culture and using Malaysian designers in that.
Good to hear that. Now we'll take some questions from Facebook. There's one by I don't get the name, but anyway, is how extensive is the retail and indoor public spaces tropical? I guess the public spaces are tropical, but I think what he's meant is whether the retail spaces are naturally ventilated at all, or
okay. So certainly, and probably just reading that second question, I think one of the advantages, well, there's pros and cons. One of the advantages of reducing the height of the retail to 4 levels is that you're closer to the sky, which means that the light is able to penetrate much more readily down to the lower levels. We do have quite a lot of skylights. We do have a lot of lighting access through a lot of the major open space nodes, so the large public nodes in the retail. It is an air-conditioned space, but as we were talking about, we are trying to get quite a high level of fresh air input and control. But there are a number of areas within the development that are what I would sort of call indoor-outdoor spaces. So there's so there is definitely some controlled air-conditioned space, but there are a number of interface areas like the dining terrace that I talked about that will have all natural flow-through ventilation, where we're focused very much on solar shading and wind and fans and the like to control the temperature rather than traditional air conditioning. So there's both is probably the easiest way to say that.
Good, thank you. I hope that answers the question of the query. Next, we take a question from Siti Mariam Desa. This is about social housing. Is there an opportunity for the M40 to own residential units within the development? And what is the initiative to have a healthy social mix for such a development?
So I think probably how I'd approach that is what we've done with our residential, and we're not the only, so the master plan has, as I said, about 3,800 residential apartments planned. The Exchange Trx or the Trx Residences component is about 2,400 apartments we will deliver over the course of our part of the development. What we've done there to broaden the diversity of the community that will live in those units is we have a range of apartments from studios through to 3-bedroom apartments, which broadens the affordability and broadens the mix of families and potential occupants. And that's how we've approached trying to get sort of that the richest mix of community that we can get there to be able to address that.
There's one question on GBI rating. What is the GBI rating for the offices, especially on the energy usage per year?
Yeah, so each one of our buildings has either LEED or GBI, and a number of them have both. I probably need to come back to confirm, because I can't. I'm pretty sure the office is GBI Gold, but I need to confirm that.
Okay,
I wouldn't
fine.
want to lead anybody
Yeah,
astray. But we're within the top 2 ratings of either GBI or LEED on every one of the buildings.
Okay. Next, we have a question from Architect Sali. Is there active cataloging for materials used in construction to monitor actual embodied carbon use? Are full LCA done on the buildings?
So we are starting that process.
Okay.
So that level of monitoring and assessment is in its infancy in our ability to be able to do that in this country with what's available and where we're able to focus our efforts. So we're very well aware of it. We are focusing our energy. So at the moment, for example, what we're looking to do is we're focusing on things like green concrete and the use of green concrete to reduce the embodied carbon. So what we're trying to do is focus our efforts where we're going to get the greatest return, and where the industry is there or almost there, and we can kind of nurture them in this immediate phase. And then as we progress, we'll be able to broaden the supply chain and the materials and the focus. So we're very much focusing our efforts on ensuring, trying to get the biggest bang for our efforts at the moment.
Good. Next, we take a question from Andrew Wheat. TRX Lifestyle Quarter coming along very nicely, especially in the public realm, with estimated completion in a couple of years. That's nice. What developments are Lendlease looking towards next in Malaysia?
So I'm going to disappoint Andrew by not mentioning any specific developments. What I will say is that Lendlease has been in Malaysia since the 80s. We have been in development in Malaysia since our Sedia City Mall development, in partnership with Sedia, out in Shah Alam in sort of the mid-2000s. So we just see our business here continuing to grow, and we are looking at our next sort of, if you like, pipeline of potential developments that will emerge beyond the Exchange Trx. And we're very keen on being able to continue development. The sort of things we look for are those developments that will really, if you like, add value to the city, but similarly things where Lendlease thinks it can add value as well. So, we're more focused on the larger scale projects, more integrated. And they have to have something that we think is a point of difference, something that's going to be seen by the community as value, because as we all know, there's quite a lot of building stock, just general building stock. So to go and build more, it's got to have a real purpose, and it's got to be able to make a real difference. And that's where we're focusing our energies for our pipeline.
The next question brings us back to TRX and the financial arrangement of the development. Nowina asks, just curious, how much has the content in terms of facilities changed when Tabung Haji is no longer part of the partnership in the development, especially on the spiritual facilities, like the facilities for the Muslims and other faiths, maybe?
So Tabung Haji, Tabung Haji haven't been directly involved with the Exchange Trx, so the 17 acres, so weren't initially involved, and therefore there's no change to anything that we've done there.
Okay.
And everything we've done, we've tried to ensure that it caters for the community, including spiritual needs and other cultural needs of the broad community. So Taban Haji itself hasn't had any immediate impact on the Exchange TRX. I think what this might be alluding to is at one stage Taban Haji had was buying a parcel, and that ownership and strategy may have changed, but that was to my knowledge, that was a parcel within the master plan. It wasn't related to the Exchange TRX.
I see. Good. Let's take a question from Facebook. Having elevated roof gardens tend to alienate the street life. Are there any attempts to address this problem from urban design point of view in terms of access from the ground up to the roof?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good point, and it was something that we've been very cognizant of when designing it, because there are a number. Typically, roof gardens are roof gardens, and they're quite isolated from the rest of the public realm, and the public realm is public realm, and they're two quite different things. What we've leveraged and made the most of with the design of our park is, so one, it is 10 acres, so it is a significant attractor and scale in itself. So that, because we were probably more worried about the roof being alienated from the ground plane than the ground plane being alienated from the roof, if you like. But I'll address both. So we wanted to make sure, how do we make sure that people go up to the roof? Part of its scale, part of its connectivity, part of it was it's only 3 levels, so it's not miles and miles up in the sky. And then the other fundamental is, it's related to the connectivity. It's got to be really logical and simply connected, so that when you come in this case, one of the major connectors is you come down from Bukit Bintang, you're at the main plaza level. It's a set of escalators up into a public space, but it's indoor, outdoor within the retail, and then up another set of escalators, and you're into the park. So it's very, very simple and logical to be able to get from the traditional ground plane, the RL sort of 40-ish, up to the park level. So that's one of them. In terms of the risk of, does it alienate the public realm at the ground level, we think that the plazas that have been designed and the scale of the plazas that are at the ground level are strong enough in themselves to be good public places. They also have key anchors in them. So the MRT Plaza will always be a very busy place. So each one of these places are designed for different purposes and different events and different things. And as I said, all of our buildings do front the public realm as well as the park. So it's not like everything turns its back on the broader public realm into the park. They actually have to, they certainly connect into the park, but they also have proper, strong street addresses at the ground plane.
Thank you, Stuart. Let's take a question from a Singaporean audience from Chong Yuki. He said, interesting, thanks. Reimagining a tropical tower. I'd like to hear what are some of the new health and safety strategies adopted unique to your design, and how do you compete with codes compliance?
So I'd probably just caveat this a little bit by saying that I suppose it's the residential, must be referring to the residential, which are our towers. Everything else is quite low grade, low level for us. But I think in terms of health and safety, what we haven't really, we probably separate the green space from the individual residences. And we haven't really had any specific challenges with complying with code and introducing the green space. We've probably done most of our green space on the horizontal. When we look at if I look at our residential, for example, we're not trying to grow lots of plants on the vertical. And I know in Singapore, there's some very stringent guidelines and some things that drive a lot of vertical landscape planting and things, which we haven't gone down that path here and haven't been driven down that path from a code perspective. So I'm not quite sure that necessarily answers that question, but it hasn't been a major issue for us here.
In terms of code compliance, this may not be a fair question to ask you. I noticed in one of your plans you have actually scissors fire stairs. That is allowed in Singapore, but it's not encouraged or not allowed in Malaysia. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, so I am, and we don't have scissor stairs. So if I think you're looking at that office one, that's probably an old one. And we ended up without scissor stairs. Just I happen to be. I'm not close to the day-to-day of codes, but I happen to be quite close to that specific one.
Okay, good. I'm glad that you can answer that.
It doesn't exist.
Okay, because I noticed that the scissor stairs in the plan. Yes, good.
Yeah,
good.
We clipped that out of our promotional piece that is probably older than our final plans.
Okay, good. Thank you. Let's take another question from an anonymous attendee. With COVID pandemic, there is a surge in reliance on online shopping. How Lendlease copes with the potential reduction of demand for shopping experiences and also competition with the existing shopping malls along the MRT line?
So obviously, very good questions. Things that retail owners and developers are continuing to study globally. I think what will happen is that they will both coexist. So I think it's probably no different to the whole. There's been a big shift to working from home. Does that mean that the future of office is dead? And I think the reality is things will return to a level that is nothing like the extreme that we're experiencing in work from home, obviously, and I think to a certain extent in the reliance of online shopping. But it has accelerated what was already going to be a slow move towards a bigger use of online. So the key for us is existing in and providing a solution that works for both, so that the retail can successfully thrive, but the online portion of people's businesses also thrives. The biggest piece of resilience for what we're doing in the Exchange Trx is the overall offer. Right? So yes, people can buy things online, but it's really hard to buy experience and quality of life and interaction online. And what will, and I think we've seen it when people are allowed out, when people, the sun goes down and you can rush out to walk the streets and things, people's desire to just interact and see people and catch up with people and things is extremely strong. And people, so we will move that balance back to, it won't ever be the same balance. It'll always be a little bit, I think, more towards online. But we kind of always knew that would be where it would go over time. It's just accelerated it. And we're designing these assets to withstand these things over 20, 30 years. So yes, there will be online shopping. It's about working in partnership with retailers. It's about making sure that the offer and the experience you're giving is much bigger than just a straight shopping transaction. So they're the key areas with that. Yes, there's existing, new malls along MRT lines and things, but I think that, as I said, what we're offering here is that complete mixed experience. You've got the number of workers that are going to be in the precinct, the number of residents that are going to be in the precinct, and the key draws like things like the park and the public realm and the breadth of offer will enable this centre to withstand that level of competition.
I think that also answered the second part of Mao Jack Fu's question. Maybe you can address this Mao Jack Fu's question on working from home. I heard that you have elaborated on some of the aspects of working from home. Maybe you can reiterate that to this questioner.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't found that.
The last question. You scroll to the last, Mao Jack Fu. I think you've answered his second
Yep,
part
got
of the
it.
question.
No,
The first part of
I've
it.
got it.
Yeah, work from home.
Yeah, yep. So this is probably, let me start again. As a business and as a property sector, there's a huge amount of evaluation going into what does the work from home shift and flexibility mean for the industry, for Lendlease. I'm probably addressing this a little bit more about my sort of, if you like, my personal views. I think that once again, I think it'd be a tragedy if we all went back to 100% the way we were working beforehand and we just left behind any element of flexible work. Because we had, as a business, we'd been trying to shift towards more flexibility of work to appeal to more people, to attract more talent, to give people a better life-work balance. I mean, I've spent 30 years of my career trying to get work-life balance. Whilst I don't like having to work from home, it's lovely to be able to work from home. So what this pandemic has done is accelerated our habits and our behaviours. Probably 10 years, it would have taken us 10 years to get to the acceptability of trusting our staff and of feeling comfortable that work and productivity can happen when we're not all sitting around the same room and office, of being able to work from home, of not feeling persecuted from management and things like that about, well, I came in late and, well, I took an early phone call. I think it's freed that significantly, and that's a terrific thing, I think. The flip side is there's a huge number of different things that we can't do as effectively working from home, and anything requiring collaboration. I'm talking to hundreds of architects and designers that it is so hard to create great design and have great input and feedback in workshops doing it remotely. So it will come back. I think the key is, will it reduce office space? The office space will be designed differently. There's no question. Technology is just going to become more and more important, and that's what's enabled us to do what we've been able to do. If it wasn't for technology, we wouldn't have been able to maintain productivity. And a lot of businesses that didn't have the technology haven't been able to maintain productivity. So technology is going to continue to be critical to this whole discourse. The quality of the office space will change, and it will need to be more focused on collaboration rather than on individual workstations. Because if you only need to sit at your workstation, you can work from home more readily. But will that reduce office space need? I'm not sure it will, because a lot of the conversations about, well, I need to get the whole team together on the same day. So by default, it's hard to reduce the physical space you need if you're going to have peaks of when people come to the office. So there's a fair bit to still go, but I still believe the future of the office is strong, but it will change the makeup of it and what people do in the office versus what people do at home. And I do hope we all hang on to a little bit of that flexibility that we've got comfortable with giving people and comfortable taking.
I think we have answered, if not all, but most of the questions. I think we have gone quite a lot over time now.
Hi, Chowa. Is it possible for me to ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, Stuart, your projects last very long time. It starts like maybe 10 years and then it takes 10, 15 years. Who drives or who protects the design concept? Is it the architect, the original master planner, or is it the developer? Because I think that when you first started, you were not around yet as well. But who preserves the concept, or does it keep changing over time?
I think that's a great question. I would say that things like one of the fundamentals of this project is that if you take Lendlease as the developer, but as one of the key owners, we intend to develop and hold the retail and a number of the other products. So when you develop and hold, you naturally have a long-term view and a very strong vested interest in the outcome. And I think that, so the integrity of what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it is owned by the joint venture and Lendlease as the development manager. So that is set and is set very early on. And then we rally a team around us to deliver that. And the consultants, particularly the design consultants, play a huge part in that. But I actually think we keep each other honest. So I'd like to think that the designers that we've worked with don't leave thinking they just got beaten up and the design integrity got reduced. We try to maintain the design integrity and the quality of what we're trying to do all the way through. And I do think that ultimately the developer is the owner, is the custodian of that. But we've used a range of our consultants. We had so Grimshaw, as an example, we've used a number of key local designers with GDP and Eric Chu and DPA, but we had Grimshaw as part of our bid originally, and we had I sort of called Grimshaw our conscience, and I said, I want you to sit in all of these early meetings when we're developing the master plan, and let me know if we're going off course, right? So but it was the developer wanting to make sure that we were staying on course, rather than the master planner or the architects going, hey, we're really worried, we want to make sure you stay there. I think it's a team, right? It's a team, it's synergy. There's a lot of stakeholders, you've got to bring them all on the journey. But the strength of vision has to be set on day one by ultimately the developer. They're the one that they're going to be left with this asset, and you want it to be a fantastic outcome. It is our brand. What we develop is our brand.
CHOR, can I have one question? Izumi here, CHOR.
Okay, of course, Mr. President.
I posted the question in FB. Okay, but I think I can just mention it here. I think when the Lendlease want to participate as the JV partner for this lifestyle precinct, I think they need to secure funding from investors, from bankers for this. At that time, I believe that everybody knows that this economic recession is coming, and I was wondering what actually make the strategy that Lendlease use to convince the bankers. Do you really depend on the numbers and figures, or even you use the creativity input from the architect, designer, master planner in convincing them to participate as investor on this? Whether it's just purely numbers, how much profit can you make, or you also use a schematic design to convince them. So I just want to know how important the role of architects and planners in securing finance for something that which is a bit blur at that time, I would say.
The answer is critically important. It is not just numbers. So the numbers have to make sense, right? But then the numbers have to be believable. So, I think there was probably three key aspects. So the viability shown on a spreadsheet is one. That's a hygiene factor. You've got to be able to show that it's going to make money and that the banks are going to be able to get their capital back or their cash back. So that sort of goes without saying. But we probably all talked about the fact that there is a lot of product around Malaysia and KL particularly. So what makes you believe that these numbers can actually be achieved and you can attract the tenants and the like? And that's where the vision comes in. And the vision it's not just pictures, but it's the place that we're collectively creating. So you talk about the stakeholders, so the quality and the integrity of the design and the design solutions and the planning and the mix and the fact that it is, we genuinely believe it's something that's truly special, but it's trying to demonstrate to others. And it's when third parties and banks are, an example of that, when banks actually believe it as well, when key tenants actually believe it, that's when you kind of know that it's not just us we can easily get, fall in love with our own concepts, but that third party endorsement, validation and commitment is what really demonstrates it. And then I think the other piece that was incredibly important to us securing finance was just the stakeholders, the joint venture partnership and the quality. It sounds a bit arrogant, but like the depth of Lendlease raised money globally, very, very large international developer. So, it was a blend of international and local banks. So that, we really helped with the credibility from an international perspective. TRX and the government and things obviously help with the integrity of a development of this scale in Malaysia. So that joint stakeholder commitment and demonstration is the other piece. So three pieces, fundamentals, a fantastic, something that's really different and really believable as a concept and as a place that you're creating, and the stakeholders that are seeking the funding.
Thank you very much. I think we should end the webinar now. This is probably one of our longest webinar ever for KLF. Thank you very much for your patience, Stuart. I'd like to thank all the audience for tuning in today as well. And now we'll pass the floor back to Scarlett.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stewart, and thank you, Architect Lee, for the moderation. I really enjoyed the presentation and the moderation just now. I think TRX is going to be an amazing place once they're completed, and I look forward to seeing it. So thank you, everyone, once again, and I hope to see all of you very soon. Thank you and stay safe.